You're watching Play Replay with Async. Now on this video, I kind of wanted to give my thoughts on what it would be like if we actually had a Backrooms movie. I guess this is my version of the Backrooms movie, just because I would just do it a little bit different than I think most people. I'm not saying I'm better than anyone. I'm just saying that this is just kind of an idea that I've had for a while. So I'm just going to give my kind of story version of what I think the Backrooms should be as a movie, and we'll see what you think, and you can kind of give your thoughts on this in the comments below. So I would start off with basically a lost person kind of in the woods or something, and I wouldn't make it to where it's like Kane Pixels or whatever, where it's just some kid filming or whatever and he just falls through. But I would, of course, you want to have the camera, because that is kind of how the Backrooms goes. So I would have some guy that's like a camper, like a kind of like a blogger or vlogger or whatever, video blog. Somebody who's just kind of going through the woods, doing an off the grid kind of thing. Kind of has off the grid kind of videos or whatever, and have that so he's got a backup, a bag with camera and batteries and all that stuff. So that would kind of take care of that. He'd have a cell phone, he'd have whatever. But yeah, so he would come upon stairs in the woods. I don't know if you've ever heard of these things, but there is supposedly a thing about stairs in the woods, that people just don't go up the stairs in the woods if you find stairs in the middle of the woods. And a lot of people say that there are these in different places in the woods you'll find stairs, I guess, and it's supposed to have like a supernatural type of thing where you have something happen when you go up the stairs. I don't know, I'm not completely all up on the stairs in the woods thing, but I have heard of it. So that's why I would use that as kind of a mystery type thing to kind of start off the Backrooms as a movie. So I would have this camper or this off the grid guy or whatever, vlogger guy, basically go and see these stairs and just kind of like, what the world is this doing out here, and just go up the stairs, and they'd be like all decayed, like broken down old stone stairs or something, I don't know. And then he would climb up the stairs, and once he gets up to the last step or whatever, he'd be like, well, there's nothing here, it's not connected to anything or whatever, so whatever. And he just kind of turns, and then boom, he falls into the Backrooms. Now I know that's not that great of a way to get into the Backrooms, but it's kind of a more interesting way, I guess. And it's just something I think would be kind of cool, because the stairs in the woods thing has always kind of been interesting to think about, that people say they lead into a different dimension or something. So yeah, so tie that in with the Backrooms, and that would be a good jumping off point, pardon the pun. So then he's in the Backrooms, and the whole thing you normally get with the Kane Pixel stuff, where you got a person walking through the Backrooms lost. This guy will pull out his camera or his whatever tripod, whatever his thing is, his selfie stick or whatever, I don't know. And then he would just kind of start walking through and be like, how did I get into this Backrooms? I was just in the woods. So it's more of a contrast, big difference between where he was and where he is. And then I would have him continuously keep walking, like through level 0 or whatever, with the office space, the yellow stuff, the yellow walls and all that stuff, and continue going and going and going. And I don't know if I'd have him yelling for help or whatever, but he would observe all this stuff. Anyway, eventually what I would like him to do, though, is end up at a place where he ends up, basically setting up camp so he could sleep for the night. And then, you know, the lights are on all the time, so he's lost. And then, you know, there could be some comedy where, you know, he has to go to the bathroom. He goes on the office floor because the whole place is an office floor. But yeah. And then basically what you'll have is him trying to sleep, and then he'll hear like walking or something in the distance or whatever. And that's giving a nod to, you're not alone in here. And it gets kind of creepy. And so he can't sleep, obviously, and then he would probably grab his stuff and kind of just start walking, like, where is this footsteps from? And then he'd come across the monster, and I would have it be the actual creature like Kane Pixels has. I don't know if there's copyright issues there or how that works, but I would have, if it was up to me, if I had my wishes, I would have that, only make it more realistic and more visible by, you know, just like it'll be there, just scare you, like shock you that it's there, but you'll be able to actually see it, and it actually won't look so, because the Kane Pixels one is kind of, you know, it's not the highest technology he has to make these videos, so I would just up the technology so this thing is basically a living, breathing, creepy type of whatever the thing is in the Kane Pixel videos. It seems like it's made out of wires, like a tripod and all these different things. So it's like, what is this thing? So I would kind of get into you seeing it and kind of trying to figure out what this is. Of course, you're running, and he'll get away from it eventually. And then he'll just kind of go through, and he'll kind of follow this place, and he'd go up some steps or something. He'd basically find another level, and then you see that there's more levels and all that stuff. And then eventually I'd like him to see the whatever where it cuts off, like the first Backrooms video that Kane Pixels did. I don't know if you've seen it, where it cuts off and there's like a whole bunch of open hallways that he can look down the passage, like this giant vast like underground I don't know, chamber, and it's got all these little passages going from place to place, and it's like tunnels and hallways. It's like an underground bunker kind of feel. Anyway, and then he'd eventually, like, the creature would the monster thing would come or whatever, and then he'd end up running into, like, having to run across and jump this thing, and he'd jump across. Of course, he's hanging on. He just barely made it, climbs up or whatever, and he thinks he got away from the monster, and then he basically would find his way into another maze of stuff. Well, the whole movie would be mostly this guy dealing with this environment, trying to figure out how to get out of it. Probably starving, being hungry, and then he'd start to get a cough because there's like a bacteria that's in the back rooms or whatever, and he would start like not feeling so good, but not like dying, but you'd feel like he's gonna die maybe if he stays here any longer. So there's gotta be a way to end this. So then I would have him eventually come upon, because I'm not gonna make this video super long, but I would just basically have him come upon, I'm just really kind of fast forwarding this video and making it kind of like a quick brief run through of my version of what the Backrooms would be like. But yeah, he'd basically run across a group from the Async Labs. My name on the show is Async. That's where I get it from. But anyway, the Async Labs from the Backrooms people or whatever, and you'd see them, and he would be like, oh my god, these are people. There's actually people here in hazmat suits, the yellow suits, the whole thing. Anyway, and then he would go running up to them, and they would be, instead of it being kind of a I'd keep the old government is bad type of thing, because I just think that's interesting. Stranger Things kind of did that really well in the first season, and I like the idea that the government is messing around with something. Only in this story, I would have it to where the government is using a third-party group, which is the Async people, to do this stuff, and the public persona to the people would be that if they ever get taken to court or whatever, would be that they're making space for people to go to this whatever, to store stuff and eventually move into the back rooms to make more space. But the government agenda is really not that. The government is really funding this through the back door, and they basically are doing this because they intend to have like a place to put prisoners, because like the government would want to take away dissidents and people that they don't like in the near future. So they think that the back rooms is this great little dimension place where they could just pluck people away, and technically they could say technically that they're not killing them, they're just moving them, you know. So it's kind of a technicality game, and the government is a tyrannical government, and they want to get rid of their enemies. So they're doing this in a way to where it's, if they use a third party, they can get away with this in the public eye, and it doesn't make, nobody knows what's going on, because the employees at Async don't know that the government is funding this and controlling all this. They just, only the people that are in charge of Async would be the ones knowing that the government is doing all this. But this is a lot of backstory, but the main character wouldn't know all that. But when he runs across the Async employees, of course, you know, they would say, who are you? Where are you from? Or whatever. And then they would take him into a quarantine because he's coughing or whatever. And then they would get him out of there, and he would talk to them about the monster or whatever. And they would be like, oh my God, what, you seen it or whatever? And he's like, yeah, I survived it. And then you'd find out that some of the Async people have experienced this thing, and they got away from it because they knew they had their path to get out and everything. And they blocked off the places where they thought it would be. So they're doing that because they're just trying to observe this dimension and kind of understand it more at the moment. But so anyway, the point is, he would be taken out, and then you'd see him in like a hospital type of situation, and some government, like FBI, CIA type, would come in and be like, so you survived this environment and you're sick? And he would be basically, they would be like, because they already know that you can get sick from, that's why they know to quarantine them. But he'd be like, but you survived this environment and you managed to find a way out. And then he'd be wondering how you made it in or whatever. And he would tell him that there's staircases in the woods or something, that like a staircase he found or whatever. But none of that matters. The government person would say, oh, okay, and whatever. He'd document this stuff. And then you'd find out that he'd go back to another person who's in the CIA government people, and he'd tell him, listen, this guy came in through the stairs. And then that person would be like, the stairs, huh? So we have more confirmation that the stairs are leading to this place. And then you'd be like, oh, okay, so stairs in the woods leads to the back rooms or whatever. And then you'd have whatever. And then there'd be just more stuff going on. Now, keep in mind, this is like a 2-hour movie. So this is kind of the ending, I'm telling you. I mean, the actual story would be him in the back rooms for the most part, and then finding his way out. So this would kind of lead to what you'd see would be like the second part of the back rooms. So you'd get that idea that the government is doing something, and it would just kind of leave it vague, so that you'd be like, what's going to happen with the government in the next one, you know? So that's kind of my first movie, I guess, version of the Backrooms. I realize it's just kind of, I don't know if it's groundbreaking or anything, but it's just something I've thought about, and I really would love to see a Backrooms movie. And also, I would also like to see people, like military people, maybe get lost in the Backrooms in the second one, and have them basically try to fight that thing that's in there. And also, I believe that I would have it to where it's eventually, you'd find out that that creature that's in there was actually, it's basically made out of like whatever the tripods and all of the things that the async people left in there. But the people getting sick, the bacteria in there is getting on it, and it kind of brings things, gives life to things, but it also kills the living things that go in there eventually. And eventually this thing would be like a parasite that it kills people, and it sucks their life, and it basically lives off of it now. So then it would be like every time it kills something, it becomes more stronger and more powerful. And it's kind of a living mix of things, you know? So it's kind of like the tripod that, it sounds really stupid that these physical things would turn into, become this monster, but the bacteria and stuff just kind of molds it all together into a mishmash, into a thing, and it's like evolving over time. So that by the time you get to the third movie, after so many people have died or whatever, then you could get this thing that looks different, and the monster could look different. And that's not everything though, because I would say in the second, when you get to different levels of the back room, now you get into other things, and the bacteria reacts differently in each level, because each level is a different type of environment, like different kinds of air or different kinds of whatever is in there. So you get different kinds of creatures and different types of things. So that's kind of what the second movie would get into, I think, is there's other levels, and the bacteria kind of changes things, and there's other ways, other types of creatures and stuff in different levels. So then you could actually kind of get a variant. I would just say the first movie just sticks basically to the yellow walls and office spaces, because that's what we all know the back rooms of mostly. So that would be kind of a good starter. And then if it does well in the first one, then you could kind of go in, and it would probably be a fairly cheap movie. I don't think it would really take much. I mean, really one guy, a couple of government types, and guys in the yellow suits or whatever. It wouldn't take very much. You just have you have to have office spaces and stuff like that, and maybe do that in some kind of a CGI like they do, like Kane Pixel does. But yeah, so these are just some ideas. I don't know if someone will ever take them and make a movie. I don't know. I'd like to see a movie, though, a good movie, well done, of the Backrooms. And I'd like it to be the way I just said, whatever, with the government over the top, secretly kind of thing. But yeah, tell me your thoughts in the comments and whatever, and just let me know what you think. Because, I mean, I'm a big fan of the Backrooms. I mean, obviously, by going by async, that's kind of gives it away. But, yeah, I just would love to see. I mean, I'm playing this Escape from the Backrooms game now on my PC, and I'm sure a lot of people who like the Backrooms have probably started to play that. But I'm playing that, and I just got to this, like, the whatever level 1 or 2. Anyway, the level where you're in the parking garage, and there's a shape-changing thing that goes from a guy in a yellow hazmat suit into a monster with a mouth that's like running all the way down his chest. That part, so that thing is really creepy. And you can't get away from it, because once you start running to get in, you have to close the office door or something. But yeah, you would really like that game. If you don't know about it, it's on the Steam store, and I'm playing it with a remote control because I don't like to play games without like an Xbox type controller. So if you could find it on there or whatever, it's a very good game. It's well worth it. It's like $10. It's, at least right now it is. So it just looks like they're updating the game, and it's still going. I don't know. It just looks really good. So I would say get that if you're into Xbox. If you're into Backrooms games, because it's a very good game so far. I mean, it's not the greatest, but you can play multiplayer with it, so you can have multiple friends go in with you. But yeah, that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about here. I just wanted to give my thoughts on the Backrooms, because I'm a big fan of the Backrooms, and I wish I could watch them on this channel and kind of just like kind of give my reaction to different Backrooms videos, but you know, I don't want to get flagged and copyrighted and all this stuff, so I'm not gonna really do too much of that with full-length videos or whatever. Maybe parts and stuff, obviously, but not full length. But yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to say. So like, share, and subscribe, and thank you for watching.